You walk into the kitchen, open the fridge, stare at the shelves for a few seconds, close it, and then somehow come back 10 minutes later to do the exact same thing again. You are not really hungry. You know that. So most people would call it boredom, lack of discipline, or a bad habit. But sometimes, opening the fridge is not about food. Sometimes, it is your mind looking for a small change in the room because it cannot find a change inside you yet. And once you understand what you are actually searching for, this ordinary little habit starts to reveal something much deeper. Because there is a strange kind of honesty in this moment. The house is quiet. Your phone has been scrolled through too many times. The show in the background is playing, but you are not really watching it. Maybe you had a long day at work. Maybe no one checked in on you. Maybe you answered messages, smiled at people, handled your responsibilities, and still arrived at night feeling vaguely unfinished. So you open the fridge, not because your body is asking for food, but because your mind is asking for an interruption, a small event, a little possibility, something to break the stillness. And this is the part most people miss. The behavior looks physical from the outside, but it often begins emotionally on the inside. For many people, the fridge becomes a place of temporary choice. During the day, you may feel controlled by deadlines, expectations, family needs, bills, messages, other people's moods, and the pressure to keep up. You may feel like your attention belongs to everyone but you. Then, for a few seconds, you stand in front of the fridge and choose, sweet or salty, cold or warm, leftovers or nothing, a snack now or later. It is not a grand form of freedom, but when your day has made you feel powerless, even a tiny choice can feel strangely soothing. The emotional cost is that the relief does not last. You close the door, walk away, and the same feeling is still there. The food may change the taste in your mouth, but it does not always change the weight in your chest. The reframe is this: you are not always lacking discipline. Sometimes you are trying to reclaim a sense of agency in a life where you have been running on autopilot for too long. But this is where the pattern gets more complicated, because sometimes the fridge is not about choice. Sometimes it is about comfort without asking anyone for it. Food is one of the first forms of comfort many people ever knew. Before we had language for loneliness, stress, disappointment, or rejection, we understood warmth, sweetness, fullness, and being given something. So later in life, when you feel emotionally unsettled, your nervous system may reach for something familiar. Not because you are childish, not because you are weak, but because the body remembers comfort before the mind can explain pain. You might notice this after an awkward conversation. You reread a text message and wonder if you sounded strange. You leave a group of friends and finally breathe in your car. You get home from a family dinner where you pretended to be fine, and suddenly you want something from the kitchen. The hunger is not in your stomach. It is in the part of you that spent the day holding itself together. The cost is that emotional hunger can become hard to recognize. You may keep feeding tiredness, loneliness, resentment, or anxiety with something that was never designed to answer those feelings. The reframe is not "stop doing it." The mature question is, what feeling am I trying to soften right now? Because the fridge may not be the problem. It may be the messenger. Another reason people open the fridge when they are not hungry is emotional avoidance. There are moments when the mind does not want silence because silence brings things closer. The conversation you did not respond to well. The work you are behind on. The relationship that feels slightly distant. The dream you keep postponing. The strange fear that everyone else is moving forward while you are standing still. So you get up. You check the fridge. You check the pantry. You pour a drink. You clean one small corner of the counter. You look busy, but inside, you are trying not to meet the thought that was waiting for you. This is not laziness. It is often a form of emotional delay. The mind says, not yet. Not this feeling. Not this memory. Not this question. Not this loneliness. And in small doses, avoidance can protect you. No one can face everything all at once. Sometimes a snack, A walk, a show, or a small distraction gives your nervous system enough space to come back later with more steadiness. But what began as protection can slowly become a cage. If every uncomfortable feeling is interrupted before it can be understood, you may start losing trust in your own inner life. You may begin to believe that any sadness, boredom, or uncertainty must be escaped immediately. And this is where the gift becomes heavy. The reframe is that your feelings are not emergencies just because they are uncomfortable. Sometimes they are visitors. They arrive, they ask for attention, and if you stop running long enough, they usually become more specific. Not, I need food, but I need rest. Not, I am bored, but I feel disconnected. Not, I want something, but I do not know what I want anymore. There is also another quiet layer: stimulation. Modern life trains the mind to expect constant input: notifications, reels, messages, new tabs, new opinions, new things to compare yourself to. Even when you are tired, your brain may still expect novelty. So when the room feels too still, the fridge becomes a physical version of refreshing the feed. Open, scan, close, repeat. It is the same motion as scrolling at midnight, hoping the next post, the next video, the next message will finally create the feeling you are missing. But the difficult part is that stimulation can disguise itself as comfort. You think you are relaxing, but your mind is actually searching for a spark, a reward, a small emotional shift, something to make the moment feel less flat. This can happen especially when you are emotionally exhausted, when you are too tired to start something meaningful, but too restless to simply rest, too drained to call a friend, but too lonely to sit with yourself, too overwhelmed to be productive, but too wired to feel peaceful. So the fridge becomes a compromise, not a solution, just a small doorway out of the present moment. The cost is presence. You are there, but not fully there. You eat, but do not taste. You scroll, but do not absorb. You rest, but do not recover. The reframe is this: sometimes the thing you call boredom is actually your mind detoxing from constant stimulation. The stillness feels wrong at first because your nervous system has forgotten that nothing happening is not the same as something being wrong. And then there is loneliness. Not always dramatic loneliness, not always having no one. Sometimes it is the quieter kind, the kind where you have people to text, but not people you feel safe being fully honest with. The kind where you can sit in a room with others and still feel emotionally far away. The kind where you answer, "I'm good," so automatically that even you stop noticing when it is not true. At night, when the distractions slow down, that distance can become louder. So you wander into the kitchen. There is something deeply human about wanting to be held by something predictable. The fridge light turns on every time. The shelves are there, the same containers, the same bottle, the same little world that asks nothing complicated from you. Unlike people, it does not misunderstand you. Unlike work, it does not evaluate you. Unlike social media, it does not show you everyone else's perfect life. It just opens, and for a moment, that can feel safer than needing someone. The emotional cost is that safe things can become substitutes for connected things. You may start managing loneliness privately instead of allowing yourself to admit that you need more than distraction. The reframe is not that you are needy, it is that you are human. Emotional connection is not a weakness in your design, it is part of the design. And this brings us to the strongest reframe. Opening the fridge when you are not hungry is not always a food problem. Sometimes it is a signal that your inner world is asking for contact. Contact with your feelings, contact with your body, contact with your needs, contact with another person, contact with a life that feels less automatic. The question is not, how do I stop opening the fridge? A better question may be, what am I hoping will be different when I open it? Because often, you are not looking for food. You are looking for a transition after a hard day. You are looking for comfort after holding in too much. You are looking for control after feeling powerless. You are looking for stimulation after feeling numb. You are looking for connection after feeling alone. And when you can name the real need, the habit becomes less mysterious. That does not mean you have to judge yourself every time you snack. There is nothing wrong with eating something you enjoy. There is nothing wrong with small comforts. A mature life is not a life with no coping mechanisms, but maturity means learning the difference between comfort that supports you and comfort that quietly replaces you. So the next time you find yourself standing in front of the fridge, maybe pause for one breath before you choose anything. Not as punishment, not as control, just as contact. Ask yourself, am I hungry, tired, lonely, restless, overwhelmed, or avoiding something? Sometimes the answer will be simple. You are hungry. Eat. Sometimes the answer will be tender. You need sleep. You need quiet. You need to stop pretending you are fine. You need to send the honest text. You need to sit in the car for 5 minutes before going inside. You need to let the day end without trying to fix your whole life tonight. And sometimes, that small pause is enough to bring you back to yourself. Because the goal is not to become a person who never opens the fridge for emotional reasons. The goal is to become a person who can hear the emotional reason when it speaks. There is a kind of healing that does not look dramatic. It looks like standing in a quiet kitchen with the fridge light on your face and realizing that the thing you were searching for was not behind the door. It was underneath the habit. A feeling waiting to be named. A need waiting to be treated with respect. A part of you asking, very quietly, not for more food, but for more attention. And maybe that is where the pattern begins to soften. Not when you shame yourself out of it, but when the room becomes quiet enough for you to understand what you were really reaching for. If this felt familiar, I would be curious to know. When do you notice this pattern most? Late at night? After stress? After loneliness? Or when you feel emotionally drained? And if this helped you understand yourself a little more clearly, subscribe to Insight Mirror for more quiet psychology, emotional insight, and reflections on the hidden patterns behind everyday life.